I think there's a very common and actually a very legitimate reasoning I hear from people very frequently for why they won't even attempt to do this work that I've laid out here. The stop emotional flashbacks, the hand mnemonic, the emotional literacy, and then the superego work, talking to yourself, arguing with the how could all of this just be this thing called CPTSD? Everything I've ever experienced, how could it be reduced to like a 3-step plan, 4-step plan, broken down into chunks? No. It couldn't work. It's impossible, right? So the reasoning is, and I get it. So you're in a timeline of your life and you're going, look, this is where I was born. This is where I am now. This is my past and this is my present. And what has been before is complexity. It's been so complex. The trauma was complex. The story even is everybody's story is so complicated. And they're like, I bet you've never heard one like this before. And I'm like, well, I won't have heard your story, but I guarantee you I'll have heard a story like your story before because they're all complicated. So you look at it and you say it's complicated, and I come along and I start saying, okay, because this whole fortress mental health thing is deliberately being presented in a way that would be intelligible, understandable to a smart 14-year-old. And you say, well, the language is all very basic. And then he's got this one exercise where you touch your fingers of your hand 5 times a day. And you think, well, no. And then this other thing where you do like a sort of a mind map of emotions. You're telling me that resolves all this. This GCSE level, secondary school level, simple exercises are going to resolve my past. And of course I say, yes, if you do them. So now I'm going to add another layer of nuance in this video, and I'm going to tell you the secrets behind the simplicity. So so my standard dogma would be, my dogmatic response, you say, are you seriously telling me that this is going to fix me? And I will say, yes, if you do them. So it's not a lie. It's not a lie. But for the sake of good philosophy and better understanding, let me say no. Let me now say no, because some of you don't want the simplicity. Some of you need a complex answer. So I'll give you a complex answer. Are you, me, saying, Richard, with the Fortress Mental Health Protection System, which is me trying to put practical structure and prescriptive guidance to loads of different systems of psychology, but that fundamentally revolves around Pete Walker's CPTSD from surviving to thriving in concept and in application. Are you really telling me that these simple exercises are going to fix all this? So now we'll go another way and I'll say no. These simple exercises don't fix all this. So which is it? Is it yes or no? These simple exercises are not simple. They're only pretending to be simple. They're actually very, very complex. It's not the exercises that work. The exercises don't heal you. You heal you. You heal you. So if you look at these exercises and go, that's too simple, you'll miss it. It's, what do I tell you to do? I'll say, I'll give you a number. And the number is arbitrary. It's arbitrary. I'll say 30 days. Do it for 30 days. And you'll be watching this, you'll be going, arbitrary? You've been giving me an arbitrary number. I thought there's something magic about the number 30. Like there's a magical system of psychology, and in the world of the, like Freud came down from the mountain with a stone tablet and it said 30 on it. No, it's arbitrary. So what's really happening here, Richard? Is it yes or no? Which one is it? So I've said it's yes, if, and it's no, because the simple stuff you've seen isn't doing it. It's the time you spend working on yourself that's doing it. Let me just present to you, before you get cross and grumpy and write a nasty comment and then leave, because this could be the thing that makes all the difference. I want you to be intelligent. I want you to be cynical. I want you to question me. I want you to be doubtful. Of course, no, I don't want you to be doubtful. I'd like you to just get on with it and heal and move on with your life. But of course you are going to be doubtful. I would be as well. But if it was me looking at this, I'd see past this, because that's the way my brain works. But some people think in a very literal way. And it's very like, they can only see that which is presented. These people are probably good at mathematics, at physics and chemistry. I'm not. I hate that stuff. My natural realm is the realm of symbol, nuance. I love literature. I don't, in psychology, I don't like behavioralism. Ugh, I like psychoanalysis, which is investigation. It's the unconscious, it's symbol, it's mysticism, you know. So to me, this is obviously not that. So I would see this and I translate it straight away, but some people don't. So let me give you the answer. First, let me tell you what my dilemma is, and it's the trainer's dilemma. It's the coach's dilemma. So here's the dilemma that I face, that all trainers face. So let's not make this about me. I have a friend, his name is Danny. And I go to Danny, he's a personal trainer, and I say, I want less body fat, more muscles, and I want to look nice with no clothes on. And he'll say, okay, this is what you have to do. And he'll give me a diet and exercise plan. And it'll be something really simple, super simple, 500 calorie deficit. Doesn't even hurt. 500 calorie deficit every day. If you can eat 3,000 calories, I'm a big chap and I like to train. And you knock 500 calories off that, you might feel hungry once in the day, but not for long. Easy. How many days? I bet I have to train every day until I'm dead, like I'm trying to join the Navy SEALs or the parachute regiment. No, we don't do that either. It'll probably be 4 times a week should be enough, never to exhaustion. And I look at that and I go, Danny, mate, listen, come here. I'm an adult, right? I've been fat, over too much fat, since the age of 25. I'm now 40. It's 15 years. Do you think I've not been trying? I've tried, Danny. I've tried everything. Everything. I've tried this diet. I've tried that diet. I tried HIIT protocols. I tried Tabata protocols. I tried and I'll give him all of my justifications for everything I've done. And I'm like, mate, you don't know me. You don't know me, man. My case is special. My body's special. And he'll go, the solution that you're looking for is 500 calorie deficit and training. Probably, maybe you can have 5 times a week. Maybe you can train 4 times. And then on a couple of days, you go for a walk or a bike ride. And I'm going, no, you don't understand. I've got a special thing in my body that just keeps, and it's not. I'm not special. So why is the simple solution going to fix the complex problem? I've had this for years. I've battled it. I wrestled with it. I've tried throwing NLP and hypnosis at it. Nothing worked. And you're telling me this. I could get this off the internet. Any idiot can tell me this. You know what the difference is? The question is not whether it works or not. The question is, will you do it? And you know, if this was my other channel, I'd put a swear word in there and it would be a verb. Or is that an adverb? It would say effing do it. Get on with it. If you don't knock this protocol out for 30 days minimum, you've got nothing to measure, nothing. And to move your body and have your body change shape, 60 days would be better. 90 days would be superior. And if we're talking at the levels of people who really know what they're doing, you're looking at 6 months. You're looking at, what's that? You're looking at more like 180 days. 180 days of that. Then you'll see changes, right? Similarly here, you've got to actually do it in order to make it work. So what's the trainer's dilemma? The personal trainer's dilemma is the same as the life coach's dilemma. It's the same as the psychotherapist's dilemma. The dilemma is there is a gap between what I tell you to do and then what you actually do. And this gap, I've been referring to it in my head for a year or so as the discretionary gap. I think it's the right term because there is, between adults, your personal trainer is not your mum, is not your dad, and you're not a child anymore, and they don't live with you. So if, say as a personal trainer, I see a personal trainer once a week, and they tell me to do this, and they say it, and they say to me, are you going to do that? And I go, yeah, I'm totally going to do this training protocol and this eating protocol. Yes. The gap between what I've said I'm going to do, what they've told me to do, and what I actually do is the discretionary gap. It's at my discretion as an adult, as a free, sovereign adult. My agency is I can do what the hell I want. Trainers know this, and the personal training industry knows this, and it's a problem. Let me talk personal training because it maps straight onto life coaching and psychotherapy perfectly. There's no difference. What they've started to do, of course, is they start to try and preempt the expectation that you're not even going to do what they say. And that's what I did with this course. So I've deliberately said and not said things trying to preempt the discretionary gap between what you're told to do, because you don't have to listen to me. I'm not, I'm no authority more than you give me. Or maybe you watch me for 20 minutes and then you go and walk the dog and you forget about what I've said. You're not necessarily going to do it. You don't live in a camp that's run by me that's making you do this every day with a bunch of other people. But if you were, and you did it for 30 days, I guarantee you'd feel better after the 30 days. Why? So, I'll tell you why in a second, because I really want to get into the psychic space of why that simple stuff works and why this works, right? Simple answer to a complex problem. So this is the trainer's dilemma, it's the psychotherapist's dilemma. There's a gap between what you're told to do and what you actually do. And a lot of times, you just don't do it. Why do I not just do this? Well, partly because it means I'm going to have to change my lifestyle in a way that's not in line with what I imagine my healing process, my training progression progress would have looked like. I expected a Navy SEAL style boot camp. I expected to starve, and you're telling me I don't need either. Ladies and gentlemen, please look inside yourselves and please be honest right now. Let's agree to be honest with ourselves. You've got all this past and all this complexity, tears, divorces, lying on the floor, weeping, covered in your own snot. Some people, it's drug abuse. Some people, it's been real tragedy. It's been death, murder, suicide, horror, all from trauma. And then I'm going to give you this secondary school exercise to do and say, this fixes it. Your brain just says, F you. There's no chance. That's insulting. You're insulting me. You're insulting my experience and my intelligence. So that's the trainer's dilemma. That's the psychotherapist's dilemma. If I do this seemingly simple protocol, what's actually happening? The only thing that can happen is, how should we, again, like put it back to strength training, reps over time. So the question would be, over how many weeks and months did I actually pull this off? So let's say it's training 4 times a week, a couple of walks. It's a 500 calorie deficit a day. That means you're tracking calories every day. And to some people, they're just like, I'm not doing that. I was that guy. I was like, I'm not tracking my calories. And the answer is, Okay. All right. So you're not prepared to track cat? No. So you're not prepared to set a timer on your phone and touch your fingers and say words that remind you of certain things 5 times a day. Are you prepared to do that? If the answer is, again, be honest. No, you're not going to do it. Are you prepared to just sit down and do a mind map every day? No. Okay. Bye. The unsubscribe button is there. Sorry. Sorry that the free information that takes you from beginning to end of a healing process that's worked for me and thousands of other people isn't going to work for you because you won't bother your ass to do this because you have a fantasy of healing. Like my fantasy of getting lean was torture. Your fantasy of healing, not fantasy, fantasy in the psychoanalytic tradition could be anything, like any hallucination. It's not, fantasy usually means good, so fantasy can be bad too. So you probably have some nightmarish fantasy, you're like all this pain, all this suffering. I think my therapy would be 5 stern-looking Zen monks with shaven heads who never smile, beating me with bamboo sticks whilst I lie on the floor, holding a teddy bear, rolling around, crying, and saying, "Mummy, why? Mummy, why?" Would you prefer that? Now, all joking aside, isn't that what you envision it would be like? Because that's what the trauma looked like. Well, I hope it didn't look like that. But no, well, metaphorically, you get hit with sticks by stern people, maybe literally sometimes. And your response is dramatic, is infantile, is humiliating. It's, the fact it's happening is awful, and then you observe yourself responding in the wretched ways that we respond when we are effectively psychologically tortured, and you go, well, the healing process must look like that. It can't be this. You have your mind. Do you know what I've been through? Do you know what I've been through? I was a heroin addict and I lived under a bridge, and you're telling me that that's caused by this thing that you're calling emotional dysregulation. Well, I don't really believe that. You're saying it's trauma. I don't really believe that. You're saying there's 4 primal responses that I'm locked into through I don't believe you. And now you're telling me this is the solution. You don't know my life, man. This is some secondary school thing. I need the Zen monks who are going to beat me. That's my therapy. Surely it can't be this. So then we've done the trainer's dilemma. I think I flogged that to death, but you really need to understand that, because otherwise you're going to be like, hey, you're being dishonest. I'm not being dishonest. I'm trying to preempt the dilemma, because this, you wouldn't be human if you didn't lean this way. Very few humans just do as they're damn well told. But hey, you know what? I found this worked really, really well. Multiple times in my life, but especially in the last few years, when I pay somebody and I say, tell me what to do, as an experiment for the first week to 14 days, I do exactly what they say, just to see what happens. Because what I found in my life experience is the hard way is the easy way. That's the conclusion I've come to. If you just accept it, so if somebody says that we have a 6-step system that's going to make you money, get you into better shape, lead you to a better state of mental health, and I've paid for it and I'm like, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try this. You're going to get 7 to 14 days out of me. I'd write it on a piece of paper. I'd be organized, be a good little boy and do what I'm supposed to do. And then I'm just going to do it. Because I've been on both sides of the table and I'm like, hey, I can see myself doing this. People gave me training programs and nutrition programs, and I spent thousands of pounds over years. And you know what I would do with them? I wouldn't do them. I just wouldn't do them. It's like unconsciously I thought I was buying a magic beans or something. And I'd be like, oh, what happens now? Well, now you have to do it. It's not being done for you. You have to do it. So that's the discretionary gap. So now you won't think I'm a liar. You'll just understand that I fall prey to this because I'm human as well, and I have to work with this. So the answer is yes, if, but it's also no, because actually these, there are other things I've told you to do, but these are the big ones, right? The finger pull, the finger tap exercise, the mind map. Really? 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 Well, yes, but no. Okay, so where's the no? I have to be, I'm going to be fully honest with you here. There's a whole side of me that I've kept off the YouTube spaces because it confuses people. And if anybody is even slightly on the spectrum for any sort of a psychotic, or they're highly emotionally dysregulated, they really like it and they cling to it, and then they use it as a way of intellectualizing their way out of the work. It's called spiritual bypassing. But I'm a pretty spiritual dude. I can read the I Ching, or I used to be able to. I'd probably have to relearn it. I can read tarot cards. I used to be very interested in astrology and even psychic readings. It's not part of my life anymore. Hasn't been for over a decade. But that's my worldview is open to that. Why am I telling you? Because you wanted the complicated answer. Because this is for the videos. This is for the intellectuals who intellectualize their way out of progress. So we're going to go there. I'm going to give it to you straight, and I'm going to give you everything. Why am I telling you that about spirituality and psychic phenomena and stuff that I believe in that's part of my belief system? Because it's actually quite crucial to how this works. In the realm of psychology, allow me to make a gross oversimplification to make a point, but it has a simplification that has merit. Imagine it's a pool. Here's the deep end of the pool. Here's the shallow end of the pool. This is psychoanalysis. This is behavioralism. The depth of the pool is mysticism. Behavioralism is the end of the psychology can veer towards hard science. Behaviorism. If we can't see it and we can't measure it, we're not talking about it. Do I think this is valid? Yes, I do. I think that all psychological practices should be governed and disciplined by this. But I am not in the camp that believes that psychology is a science or that it should pretend to be a science. It's a school of philosophy that should try to be scientific. So we need behaviorism. We need behavioralists to come along every once in a while and be like, what are you doing? Well, we are like the superegos blending with the id. And they go, can we see any of that? We can try and show you. We should always be brought back. We should always be off the ceiling and brought back to earth, yeah? So here's mysticism. And there's different schools. There's different schools of therapy that get, different schools of psychology, different schools of research that become more open to it's actually a scale of subjectivity. This is ultra objective science, and this is ultra subjective. Psychoanalysis is born of mysticism and subjectivity. The granddaddy of psychoanalysis, as you probably already know, is Freud. His insights came from solipsistically and deliberately going inward. This is out, and it's measurable. It's a phenomena that's measurable in the external world. This is in, and it's completely immeasurable, and it's subjectivity, and it's that which is perceived in the internal world. And psychoanalysis does not attempt and should not attempt to say, your thought or your feeling or your dream symbol needs to have an observable effect to be valid. No, it's valid in and of itself in psychoanalysis. In a sense, it's its own question and its own answer. But in behavioralism and in more scientific schools of psychology, that doesn't work. That doesn't play. That's not science. That's anti-science. That's completely anti-scientific to say, well, I feel like this is what it is, so that's what it is. Science is going to be like, no. That's like absolutely not. But here it is. So where am I on this scale? Well, I'm here. But I need to give you stuff that you can do so that you can make it measurable. But we've gone inside. So Freud would be the introspection that led to his childhood. And he observed his childhood as an adult. And he brought forth what he recalled. He was really good at recalling his feelings in childhood. So he brought out like sexual stuff, really taboo, weird. When I say weird, I mean like in the cultural settings in which we find ourselves now, it's not really considered cool to have sexual feelings towards your parents, but it's also natural for a child, their first libidinous attachment will be to their primary caregivers, to their parents. It's perfectly natural. Most of us don't remember it. Freud did, which is in and of itself impressive. And then he brought it out and he spoke about it. So Freud went inward, saw the childhood landscape as an adult and brought it forth. Jung goes inward, sees the inner landscape as a child, not as an adult, and then plays there. Symbols, archetypes, UFOs, aliens, spirits, demons, and it's like this cornucopia of fun and groovy stuff, which is why he's very popular, because it's easy to, all the child in us is attracted to that. But Freud is not, because it's awkward. That's an adult with a child's perspective. Freud gives you the same feeling as when you see, like if you saw a fully grown man dressed up as a 4-year-old girl, you'd be like, hey, those two things make me feel strange together in the same space. So Freud makes us feel, ugh, so we want to reject it. We also don't want to think that about ourselves. So Freudian psychoanalysis can make people quite angry. Jungian, it's very like, explore, what is your archetype? Did you speak to the angel? Did you speak to the daemon? So it's friendlier, it's warmer, but it's not more valid. It's not more valid. Just because something makes you feel better doesn't make it more valid. Behavioralism would stand on the outside of that and be like, yeah, yeah, you can't do that, but people do. So why am I talking about this? Okay, so you're the intellectuals who've intellectualized your way out of this, and I'm talking to you. In their language, back in Vienna, back in the day, which for whatever reason just produced a bunch of world-altering, reality-bending intellectuals in that time-space continuum, a lot of them. These two gentlemen, Jung and Freud, Adler, yes, but to a lesser degree. And then before them was Nietzsche, who's talking about it as a philosopher predominantly and as a psychologist secondarily. They would talk about psyche. This is the goddess of the mind. So they used a lot of Greek literature as metaphors for what they wanted to talk about. That's why we have the Oedipus complex. That's why we have narcissistic personality disorder, so on and so forth. So they're talking psyche and psychic. To these German-speaking gentlemen, psychic meant of the psyche, that which comes from the mind. And in those days, it was not as defined as it is now. And in some ways, it was more defined than it is now. It's a funny thing. We haven't necessarily made linear progress with this. If you say psychic nowadays, certainly in England, and I'm pretty sure in America, you mean clairvoyant. I'm going to read your palm. I'm going to tell you which family member died and what message they have for you from the other side. In those days, it meant that which, it was like an energy, like the sex drive from the libido was an energy, almost in the way the Vedas would talk about prana, or in traditional Chinese medicine, you talk about qi. It's an energy, it's a life source, a libidinous energy, and it was believed to be sexual in its root, which is an interesting coincidence because in some Vedic traditions, it's also believed to be fundamentally in the root chakra, sexual mysticism. Some of you didn't come here for that. Let's keep it. Let's guide it back to this. So in the psychic space, whether we're talking the Viennese, the German turn of the century usage or modern usage, it actually meets somewhere. So this was legitimate. You could do a lecture to a bunch of physicians, a bunch of doctors, and be like, today we're going to talk about psychic phenomena. But psychic phenomena there would be, this woman has become hysterical. This man has inappropriate criminal desires that are repressed of the dubba-dubba, of the neurotic drive of the id, something. And those would be considered psychic phenomena. Now psychic phenomena is always metaphysical. It's beyond the realm of science. then it was within the realm of science. So I want to do a little trick here. When you're doing the 5-finger mnemonic and the emotional literacy exercise, you're in the in-between space. What? It would be of benefit to you to consider that these are exercises that harness psychic energy so that you can get psychic energy. He's pointing at the board, meaning the old psychic, for those of you who are washing the dishes and just listening to me, in the an actual metaphysical energy, metaphysical psychic energy. It would be useful for you to think that. That's quite a claim. Why? Okay, here's why. We, you can see all the way down to here. Put a marker there. There we go. Yeah. The hand mnemonic. Everybody's talking Jung and shadow work. Richie, what do you think of shadow work? And I'm like, I'm doing it. I'm already doing it. If you knew what that word meant, what that term meant, you'd recognize it. Shadow work. Shadow work. The reason why it gets confusing is again down to the use of language translated from German to English and the way in which those words are used now versus before. Shadow back then would be understood to mean one thing and one thing only, the unconscious. It's only the unconscious. Now it's much vaguer, it's much broader. It's like shadow warriors, the ninjas of the night, and it could mean like, you know, what you do at a witch's coven. It's what Jung meant was quite modest for shadow work, and it was the following. We seek to make the unconscious that which is in, so if you, there's a, you know, Freud was, sorry, not Freud, but Jung was very into his symbols, and he was very, very well aware of traditional Chinese medicine, Taoism, and that worldview. So, I've done it the wrong way around. So this is the shadow. That which is not seen. It's in the yin space. And he wanted you to work on that as opposed to the conscious. But it only means, shadow work only means the non-conscious, that which you cannot see. Because what Adler, Freud, and Jung, and the psychoanalysts who've come after them all agree, as far as I know, in the psychoanalytic tradition, there's many disagreements, but there's no disagreement about this one thing, and it's like one of the few concepts that holds all psychoanalysts together. It's the root of the belief in plumbing the depths in the dark pool of psychology is the following. There is a force in your life. It is called the unconscious. It governs your life, but you're not aware of it. And it's more powerful than your conscious mind. That statement that I just made, I think is universally agreed in psychoanalysis, I think. The part about it being more powerful than your conscious mind might be a bone of contention, but even that, I think most, like to be a psychoanalyst, I think you have to believe that. Because a psychoanalyst is predominantly concerned with plumbing the depths of the unseen, the non-conscious. So you're here with your ego, and me too, going, oh, this finger-tugging thing, get the flip out of here, the mind map, get the flip out of here. But the unconscious knows what you're doing. And it's not the fingers, and it's not the mind map. It's where it takes you to in your unconscious. Wait. So with emotional literacy as well, with these, I'm focusing on these two exercises because they're the ones that are the most powerful, but they really put people off. They really, really put people off. What am I doing with the hand mnemonic? Is there a power in tapping my fingers? No. If there was, every time you got your keys out, you'd heal. So what are we doing? When you go about your daily life and you want to get your keys out and you want to get your phone out and you need to call your husband and say, I'm going in the shop, what do you want? And you've got to get in the car and you've got to pick the kids up and then you take a sip of water and you breathe and you move and you blink and a kid comes out on a bike and you brake. You think I'm conscious. The overwhelming majority of what you just did for the last 2 hours, and even now, the overwhelming majority of what you're doing is unconscious. We live here, but our ego is the conscious, and it's in the light. So it's that which is seen, but in the shadow, shadow work, that's the non-conscious. You can't see that. What did Jung, the term shadow work is Jungian. You don't get to make up what it means. What did he say was a way of making the unconscious conscious? Explore your emotions. Explore your emotions. You must understand your emotions about a subject. Not because the emotions are the unconscious, but they're our gateway to the unconscious. So your emotions are the surest fire way of you getting any honest communication from the unconscious. Everything else is shit. So close. Is garbage. It's garbage. Your ego, and this is now Adler, you're intellectuals, you intellectualize, you want to know. Adler was a peer of Freud. He wasn't a student of Freud, as a lot of people report him to be. He was a peer, and he broke away quite early. And he talks a lot about the ego ideal. So here we are in our egos, and we have our idea of who we are and the life we're supposed to be living and who we wish to be. And if the solution I give you doesn't match your ego ideal of who you are and what your solution should be, you'll reject it. That's pure narcissism, by the way. Purest, unadulterated narcissism. That is too simple for me. I am too important for that. When I rejected my solutions that I was given, narcissism, total narcissism. What works for everybody else won't work for me. Did you know me? I'm exceptional. I can't do what the hoi polloi are doing. No, it's narcissism, my friend. Doesn't mean you're a narcissist. It means that you have narcissism in you. Most human beings do. Like, I'm sure it's more than 90% of the human population has a significant amount of narcissism in them. You only have to look at the world to confirm that. So you reject the simple because your unconscious holds an ego ideal that doesn't match it, but you're not even aware of the ego ideal. The only way to access the unconscious in a way that is legitimate. You can avoid your emotions all day long, but ultimately the hard way is the easy way. You're going to have to deal with your emotional flashbacks. You're going to have to deal with your feelings. Emotional flashback work and emotional literacy work have a word in both of them that's key. It's emotions, which are your feelings. And I know you're scared, and that's the last place you want to go, but you must. If you want your back squat to get better and you want to lift more weight, you know what the secret to a good back squat is? Plenty of back squats. You want to sprint faster? You know what the secret of sprinting faster is? Lots of sprinting. You want to get better at Muay Thai? Do you see where I'm going with this? There's no solution. There's no surgery. There's no do it to me, daddy. Oh, that sounded wrong. There's no passively allowing an authority figure, a daddy or mummy figure, to do something to you that you receive as you would in surgery, as you would in when you get your nails done or your eyebrows done, or you get, like I did with my ACL surgery. I went and met, the surgeon, the knee specialist, this older gentleman with the letters after his name and the status and the expertise, and then he puts me to sleep, and I literally lay there whilst he fixed it for me. This is not that, and never will be. Can't be. We are seeking to reprogram the unconscious. It's tough. In order to do that, we have to make contact with it first. Hello, 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 hello. We've got to get there first. How are we going to get there? What's the hand mnemonic actually doing? What it's actually doing is it's allowing you to access the unconscious. How? When you remind yourself of what are you reminding yourself of? Is it something to do with agency? Is it something to do with you being in control? Was it something to do with you stating what you wanted rather than what you didn't want? Was it something to do with you reminding yourself that you have a boundary internally between what you think and what you feel and one emotion and another? Yeah, you know what? I think it was. It's not your fingers. You could do it on your toes. You could tap you could go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can do 5 poses if you want. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you're taking something internal, unconscious, and you're making it external. You're putting it back into the light and making it conscious. The fingers are nothing. You could have 5 colored pens on the desk, and I'd say to you, you turn over each colored pen 5 times a day, and you say your 5 things. The emotional literacy is a little bit deeper. So the hand mnemonic is what is called a pattern interrupt. And that's it's to align your unconscious with what you're doing, and it's to open up the dialogue between the ego self and the unconscious, if you want the psychoanalytic language. In simpler language, it would be you're opening up the dialogue between the part of yourself that you're experiencing right now as being you. So if I say to you, take the finger of your right hand and touch your nose, that's you. That's the you that is you. But do you know that the you that is you is more than what you think? It's your unconscious, and that's massively and dramatically more in control than your conscious mind. So we have to interrupt the pattern. What pattern? The unconscious pattern. 5 times, the alarm goes off and I do my hand mnemonic. I just interrupted the unconscious, and the unconscious will go, what? I was going to drive the car and sip some water and get the food from the grocery. What are we doing? Well, I'll tell you what we're doing, unconscious. We're reminding ourselves to state our intent. We're reminding ourselves that we have agency. We're reminding ourselves to have a boundary between an emotional flashback and who we are. Remember? Over and over and over and over again. Why? Because as far as I know, to date, the only language the unconscious understands, I don't think you can talk directly to the unconscious. I don't believe that anymore. I used to. I think the unconscious really only responds to repetition and training in the way that you would train a dog. I think it's a primal part of us. When I say primal, I mean a more primitive, more animalistic part of us. It will serve us if we train it to, but untrained, it's a nightmare. It's just a nightmare. It'll just fling out desires, I want to fight with this person, I feel jealous about this, and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes it'll be good, and you'll be like, oh, I'm having a good day. And then other times it'll start spewing again, and you'll go, oh, I must be crazy. And then you blame you, and then you'll feel bad about yourself, and you walk around going, oh, I'm just crazy, look how moody I am, I can't cope with anything, I can't remember anything, I drift off when people are talking to me, I'm just crazy, No, your unconscious is running rampant, and we got to tame it. Not tame it. No, we don't need to. We got to form a relationship with it. We got to work with it. Tame it, maybe tame it. You got to work with it. It's a primal part of you that you've got to open a dialogue with, and you've got to start directing it, because an undirected unconscious is what my life looked like in my 20s and my 30s. And only by the grace of God did I not terminate the simulation for myself permanently, because it was a nightmare. It was total chaos, because I was subsumed in the shadow. It was out of control. It controlled me. So the hand mnemonic is a hard break, but it's not one off. You don't get one good day of using the hand mnemonic. It's 30 days. You said that was arbitrary. Yeah, okay. Remember the discretionary gap? It's a number of consecutive days back to back that extends beyond your comfort zone and extends beyond where you think it will have worked. So, you're the intellectuals who intellectualize. I'll share a secret with you. In my humble opinion, there is no way, just no way, that anybody who is sincerely doing the exercise, there are people who do the exercise with the intent to disprove it, and they win. They go, it doesn't work. And I'm like, well, you don't want it to work. Your intent is that you don't want it to work. If you follow the instructions given here on the Fortress YouTube channel, and you do it with the intent, I told you, set the intent to heal. That's what we're not doing in psychology. We never talk about that. What's your intent? I want to heal. So why are we talking about for an hour psychology session of all the things that are wrong? Where if our intent is to heal, it should at least be 50-50. This is what I want. I want to have a good life. I want loving relationships. I want sanity. I want peace. But it's not even 90-10. It's not even like you do 50 minutes of talking about everything that's wrong and then 10 minutes of what you do want. It's 60 minutes of what I don't want and everything that sucks. I would suggest it should probably be 50-50. This is what I don't want. Talk about that for half an hour. This is what I do want. Let's dwell on what we do want for half an hour. That's just a suggestion. It's just a suggestion. Nobody has to do anything I say. So that's the hard break. How many days should you do it for? If you do it for 7, it's going to change your life. That's a little secret. It's between me and you. I say 30 because of the discretionary gap. Because people say to me, I did it. You'll see me. If you ever watch me on an Instagram live, people go, I did it. It didn't work. And I'll be like, did you do it? Yes, I definitely tried. Did you do it? Well, I certainly thought very hard about doing it many, many times. But did you do it? No, I didn't do it. Okay, it's funny how it didn't work when you didn't do it. If you do it, the other level to this is like, it's about self-governance. You have an executive function. It's called an executive function in psychology. It's like an internal mother or an internal father. It's off for people who are traumatized. It's just clicked off. The little robot's on off. We need to click it back on. Hello, wake up. Do your job. So you have to kick that machine a few times. And I bet the first few times you do the hand mnemonic, I would think the gears will grind for the first 3 days, because that robot's been asleep for a long time. And you're basically kicking it and going, wake up, wake up. And it goes, what do you want? Well, I want to heal. Oh, why didn't you say that before? And then it'll stop because it's rusty. So you have to tell it again and again and again. 7 days of sincere effort, your life will change. I say 30 because you're going to lie to me. Everybody lies. Everybody just lies. How many days did you do? Oh, I did 30. And I'm like, that means 7. So, okay, you did 30 days. You did 7 days, probably. If you authentically do 30 days, it's going to change your life. The thing is, and here's another little secret between me and you, say you do 7, it'll change your life. If you do 14, sincerely, five times a day, when I say it changed your life, I'm not saying it'll fix all your problems. I didn't say that. I said it'll change your life. You'll never not consider using this ever again. You'll always go back to this because it's so easy. It's like stupidly easy. There's no side effects. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. You'll always use it again because it's so effing powerful. After 14 days, you will start to feel like, I've had enough of this. I don't need to set an alarm and do this all the time. But I would say do it for 30. Hammer it, hammer it, hammer it. Make sure that neural pathway is ground in so that you wake that robot up and keep your executive function switched on so it's protecting you and taking care of you. Pretty deep so far. A lot of information. It gets deeper. We're going to go back to the, I haven't yet touched on the space in the psychic realm. There is a point where I need you to be applying psychic energy in the Jungian sense, and you're almost going to do something psychic in the modern meaning of like, ooh, strange phenomena and, clairvoyance. And there is a thing that's called automatic writing. Don't look it up. It doesn't matter. Like people used to claim that they were channeling a spirit. I've spoken to the Egyptian god Iwas, and he said blah, 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 blah. And, you go into a trance and you just start writing. It's like a role play. It's a fantasy. Powerful one. Very, very powerful. I'll pretend Freud is writing through my fingers. I'll pretend Bruce Lee is sending you a message, whatever you want, right? So it's called automatic writing. You go into a trance, or you sort of half role play, you're in a trance, and then you start writing as though that person has possessed you. And you'll come out with stuff that you consciously could never think of. And nobody can explain why you're coming out with stuff that nobody can think of. Where's it coming from? Nobody knows. It's a total mystery where it's coming from. Nobody, literally nobody knows. Where is it coming from? I don't know. Great way of accessing the unconscious if you're creative. That's a fantastic thing to do. What's the moment where you're going to tread the line between psychic energy and psychic energy? Is it the moment that you get the page out? You must use a piece of paper. You must use a pen. It must be physical. It can't be in pixels on your phone. Not if you're a newbie. After a year of using this, you can write it in paint on the side of a shed for all I care. You could scribble it in the dirt with a stick and it'll work, but not when you're a newbie. When you're a white belt, you have to do your apprenticeship. And it will suck a little bit, but it's really not that bad if you do it. Thinking about doing it and evading doing it sucks. Doing it is like, oh, is that it? Everybody says that. And then after day 3 of doing it, they'll go, you know what, it's actually quite fun. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Because you're getting benefits from it. Now you feel better. With the emotional flashbacks, the hand mnemonic is the pattern interrupter that stops them and slows them and spaces them out so you can have some palm readings, some calm. It's the emotional literacy that really stops the emotional flashbacks. It is because you're emotionally illiterate that you're still flashbacking, because you can't have an authentic emotion. Psychic space. Is it when the paper is out? No. Is it when the pen is out? No, but nearly. The moment that you say to yourself, and this point that I'm going to make, I've made some tough points today, but this one's the weirdest and the most complicated, and I'm going to do my best. And this is what I think happens. And I was given this methodology through a kind of Freudian introspective process that bordered between channeling my psychic energy and channeling my psychic energy. So you could be like, I'm not doing that. That sounds weird. Let me explain to you. It's not that weird. It actually makes a lot of sense. But I believe I got it from this place that nobody knows where it comes from. Is it? So I write down and I say, something bad happened today. I dropped the tea in the shop. I dropped the tea and everybody looked at me and I felt silly. Oh, I felt bad. Tea. This is how we do the emotional literacy exercise. Can you name 3 emotions that you felt about spilling the tea? So I do this, and the pen's about to hit the paper. When does it become psychic? When does it become like automatic writing for a fraction of a second? Tea. What did I feel? I asked myself, what emotion did I feel? Now. Between me doing this, what emotion did I feel? And then I move the pen towards the paper. Something is happening inside of me. Shame is what I felt. Right here, something is happening inside of me. Something is happening inside of me that is this. Let's call it moment X. Okay, here we go. This is what I think is happening. This is what I think is happening. I don't know, but this is what I think is happening, and it also explains why it works so ridiculously well in a way that is disproportionate with what the exercise looks like. At moment X, what are we doing? Here's what I think you're doing. Here's what I think we are doing. Imagine your ego, your sense of self, right? And that's who you are right now. I'm in my head, in my chest. I'm dwelling in my body. Here I am. I'm possessing my meat suit. That's you. But not your ego, the part of you that observes that the ego is in the body. The awareness. So you pull out from your ego and you say, there's a part of me that is an observer of everything that's happening, this video I'm watching, what the guy's saying, the sound outside my window, my feet on the floor, the way my back feels. I've not moved for a while, have a bit of a stretch and a big deep breath. And all of that is being observed by something that's observing everything. And it's this point of observation. Color it, make it a little ball. The graphics that you pull up in your head don't need to be good. In fact, deliberately make them like crappy 80s cartoon graphics. Do you remember Defenders of the Earth? Yeah, do it like that. A little pink ball, and that's your point of awareness. And your unconscious I'd like you, because it's a traumatized unconscious, because it's a battered, dysregulated, chaotic, not yet tamed unconscious, it's the matrix. Remember the matrix? It's a huge bank of cables and pods and wires and like tubes, and it's got electricity, lightning, zzz, 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 all across it. And the little ball of awareness is floating in front of that huge, chaotic, but the matrix was ordered. So imagine it as a twisted mess like H.R. Geiger, the H.R. Geiger pictures, plus the matrix. It's like a mess. And that's your unconscious because of trauma, because of emotional dysregulation. And what I've said to you, or what you've said to you, is what did you feel? And in this moment, moment X, as the pen comes to the paper and I go inside and I say to myself, what did I feel? I'm sending the point of awareness into the matrix of my unconscious, and I'm going, she wants an answer. What do we feel? And the unconscious has to give you something. Now, I was just synchronistically the other day, I was talking to one of the coaches, the life coaches. I was talking to Steve, who did computing back in the day when it was on tape. And he explained to me what random access memory was. Because he had a tape cassette that he was burning old cassettes onto MP3 files. And he actually had a Walkman that does it straight to the MP3. And we were talking about how it does that. And I was sat there and I was going, is it just... He said, you have to play the tape in real time. And I was like, yeah, that makes sense, because the data is just literally rolling on the tape. Yeah. And he goes, yeah, that's right. It's rolling on the tape. So it's just making a recording of what's on the tape. He said that what that is, he said it, let me get this right. He said that's called serial memory. So in computing, you could only access the files in a series. So to get past that, they had a filing system, a file manager on every piece of data. And that's where you get random access memory from, which would mean that you could access whatever you want, whatever song on the album or whatever word of a lyric of a line on the album, straight away, you can access it. But he says in order to do that, if our matrix of information is here, with the lightning, and then there's a little point of awareness here, and it says, hey, I need to know what we felt about spilling the tea. Something has to go inside and access that data. In other areas, in hypnosis and in neurolinguistic programming, that search for data is called a transderivational search. In computing, apparently what happens, when you want to pull up a file, I hand you an MP3 drive and I say, oh, there's a video on there of me explaining how to overcome emotional flashbacks, and you put it into your computer and you want to play it, the computer has to go to the file and speak to the file and say, can you please pull up? And then the file itself knows its own registry. It has an index. It goes, what do you want? He goes, give us the emotion for today. And somebody in here goes, what do you want? I need the emotion from today. I don't know. The emotion from the tea room. What? Emotion from the tea room? What for? We usually just play dreams and horror shows and emotional flashbacks here. What do you need that for? He wants the emotion, he said. Somebody has to go in there and pull it out. There's no somebody. This is all a model of what I think is happening, not what's really happening, but something very close to this I think is actually happening. And something goes inside and goes grumpily. It's not happy. It's not smooth. It goes, oh, for fuck's nearly. In fact, I think I did swear there. I'm going to have to edit that. For F's sake, fine. Goes out and it's like, oh, I don't have that data. I don't know. I'll just make it up. I'll make it up. Here's a little secret, folks. I think everybody, including me, the first few times you do this, you fake it. Because that person, that dude, that dudette inside of you doesn't know how to do it. But you're asking it and you're going, well, the pen is about to hit the page. So in like fractions of a second, your brain goes, well, what would somebody else feel? Probably shame. And then you write it, you fraud, you liar. You write it, it's only to you, like I'm not going to mark it, nobody's going to mark it. You write it down and you go, oh, I think I felt shame, but fuck knows, I don't know. Oh, I've sworn now, ruined it. I think I felt shame. Maybe it was shame. It was shame. What else did I feel? Well, what would somebody else feel? So the person who's accessing the files has now learned to lie. He's gone, well, we found a solution last time. They want another one. We need another file. He wants a second emotion. He wants a second. This is getting like a Monty Python sketch, isn't it? He wants a second emotion. What for? He just wants one. He wants a second emotion. So he then goes in and pretends to look it up, but he's not looking it up because he doesn't know how. She doesn't know how because he's lazy and out of practice. So he goes, let's lie. What would somebody feel? Like, maybe you'd feel like, they felt shock. The single point of awareness goes, we felt shock. And you go, I felt shock. So you have like, in fractions of a second, this little internal communication, and it comes out with shock. But I think it's probably a lie. It's probably you're probably simulating the human emotion. And so it goes on, and you do what you're supposed to do. Now, what's happening here? First of all, you're getting used to going inside and asking the single point of awareness to go and ask the dude who works on the matrix. That's good. You're getting comfortable with it. You're like, this is the thing now. We need, you know, that evidence room. It's like something from a cop movie, isn't it? Do you have the evidence from the shooting of February 1972? And some person will be like, ah, okay, and then they'll waddle off and they'll get the box and they'll go, there you go. Like, you're getting used to asking the question, you're conditioning yourself, you're building the strength, you're doing push-ups for it. This single point of awareness is getting used to, it doesn't go there. Your single point of awareness is probably on survival mode. It's probably like, where's the threat? Where's the comfort food? Where's the painkiller? Where's the threat? Where's the alcohol? That's what your single point. And now you're saying, please go inside and ask the unconscious what we feel. So you're practicing doing that. Well done. You're practicing doing that over and over again. You're moving your single point of awareness around. Damn, you've never done that before. Wowee. Well effing done. I swear a lot, I realize, when I'm told not to swear. But you're also getting this entity, the file manager, the guardian of the evidence, the guardian of the memories and the emotions, because it is thought that your emotions and memories get stored in a similar place and in a similar way. It is conjectured, what is it? God, I can't remember now. Hypothalamus. So it is known, Khaleesi, that with intense trauma that goes on for a long time, your hypothalamus shrinks. You can look this up. It's you look up numerous studies. The search terms will be PTSD, hypothalamus, and volume. It is observably smaller post-trauma. You stop accessing the little Monty Python man, the little grumpy Monty Python man that knows your feelings. You're just like, we can't, not even beyond the ego, just the point of awareness is like, I have a different job to do and it's survival mode. We ain't got time for this. The problem is, when you stop using this, like any muscle, it literally shrinks. Physically it shrinks. I need to remember Tetris. Tetris. So then you're asking it to go and access memories. And it gets, so you've learned to go internal, slow down, ask self a question. This is therapeutic in and of itself. It is known for the Tetris reason, which I'll come to in a moment. This is therapeutic. Just this. You going inside and moving the internal points of awareness around internally is therapeutic. It won't always feel natural. At first, it won't feel natural. The first few times you go to yoga, you grind and you're like, oh, and then you're like, oh, actually, that feels good. This twist, I need this. It hurts, but I actually do need this. Oh yeah, that's good. So you've done that, and now you're accessing the little Monty Python man and making him find. the emotions. And he's grumpy and he's gotten old and dusty. He's like, oh, he's like the robot. He's like, oh, what? Just give him something fake. Just tell him just lie. So he will probably start lying. But guess what? You're going to sit there, the you that is the ego that is you, is going to sit there with this and go, once this is out. So everything I just gave you is therapeutic in and of itself. And I can't claim to have done the research. I don't know. This is the key that grows the hypothalamus back. When people with intense PTSD, because the hypothalamus does grow back, what they've tried to do is give them different exercises to grow the hypothalamus back. And it seems to be the case that if you give people an exercise that permits them or induces them to assign emotion to memory, the hypothalamus grows back and then you're emotionally re-regulated. What a claim. I'm claiming that my emotional literacy exercise, which I designed in 2017 based on the literature I was reading at the time, is actually an effort to see if I can get people's hypothalamus to grow back post-trauma. I'm trying to change the shape of your brain. And I think the reason why the results are so strong is because, yes, it has changed people's brains. They don't backslide. What are you going to do with a small, shriveled, little hypothalamus? You can't assign emotion appropriately either to you lose your memories. You're like, I can't access, the random access memory is gone. I can't access it. It'll probably be serial memory format now. You'll have regressed to a 1960s computer format. I'm not being facetious, by the way. Those of you who claim you can't access your childhood memories, the actual, and this is the published research now, the method to re-access the memories is serially. Do you remember I don't remember anything from my childhood. Do you remember, what's your earliest memory? Do you remember your mother's car? Do you remember the front door? Do you remember the living room? And you're asked to access totally banal memories. Why? Because it's gone serial. It's no longer random access. It's now serial. I remember the disgusting orangey brown curtains that we had in the 80s that were a throwback to the 70s. Yes, I remember the ridiculous bandana my mother used to wear. Yes, I hated her flares that she sometimes wore. Yes, I remember the couch. It was my first lover. This is what I said I wasn't going to do on Fortress Mental Health, but this is an hour and 7 minutes, and I know most people won't have made it this far, so I can say whatever I like. So then that way you access traumatic memory serially, not randomly. Okay, Tetris. In 2017, I was back in therapy. Early 2017, I had depression, so I discussed this with a therapist, and I went into a whole. I think I did like 10 sessions. I committed to it. As I told you before, I was like, I'm going to do whatever he tells me to do. I'm doing it. I'm at least giving it 7 to 14 days because you have to. And then I started looking at it, and I was living in Dublin at the time. So I had this funny Irish therapist, and he would be like, how do you feel about that? And we figured out that I only was accessing 3 emotions that were not emotions at all. They were like sleepy, depressed, horny, angry. There was like, I'd gone completely primal. So I couldn't draw beautiful pieces of nuanced artwork, shaded in skin and everything. I was like, just brutally being like, me angry, me sad, which is nonsense. That wasn't what I was feeling, but I'd broken contact with, the matrix, the unconscious, or I hope maybe the hypothalamus. So at that time, when I realized that I was emotionally illiterate, I dwelt with that. I thought about it. I introspected on it. I was like, is it an emotional flashback? Is it this? Is that? And I started to look at the literature. Guess what? It was found that with combat veterans, and there's a study, if you look at the search term PTSD and Tetris, what they found is if directly after a very traumatic event that would typically give somebody PTSD, they'd have them in the hospital waiting room, they would invite them to play Tetris. And they found, to a reasonable degree, that immediately after the traumatic event, when you are in shock, If you are permitted to just, there's no story. There isn't the police telling you, like, this is how you should think about it. This is how you should feel about it. There aren't doctors telling you, this is how you should think. This is how you should feel. Because when you're in shock, whatever they tell you directly afterwards, you'll believe it. A lot of PTSD is, in my humble opinion, actually post-hypnotic programming. Extremely irresponsible post-hypnotic programming. This is awful. You'll live with this for life. You're going to be an alcoholic. You'll divorce. People are told that. They're either told it or it's expected. It's either implicit or explicit. They just had them play Tetris. And you go, are you out of your mind? IEDs, sniper attacks, people being beaten up, people in car accidents. And you're saying that playing Tetris was shown to help them? Yes, because I think, and the research has thought, that actually the experience invites the brain to change shape in response to the horror, and it invites the brain to shrink. And in that moment, I wouldn't just have them play Tetris. I'd be much more directive with it, but at least they got that far with it. Like Tetris isn't going to, but don't go and play Tetris and think that's going to solve your problems. It's not. It's in the moment after trauma. If you're not receiving post-hypnotic suggestions and you're allowed to relax, you have a better chance of sorting it yourself. This is a sorting of files problem. It's physical because it shrinks the hypothalamus, which they think is where you store memory and emotion, and particularly how you assign emotion to memory. And when you can't appropriately assign an emotion to a memory, you can't recall it because your memories and your feelings about them are not separate, they're together. You start pulling them apart, becoming emotionally illiterate, you won't recall. And so you'll be like, oh, my short-term memory, or what do people typically say to me? My long-term memory is great, but my short-term memory sucks. And I'll be like, PTSD. I don't say that to them because it becomes a post-hypnotic suggestion. I'll just go, oh, that's interesting. Well, we can definitely talk about that. I don't want to talk to you about it right now. I'll talk to you about it later, knowing that they're going to forget because that's the state that they're in. And there's no point talking about it. Talking is not going to solve a physical problem if the hypothalamus is shrunk. So I'm making a claim now, I've not made before, but you guys want to know what the emotional literacy thing is. When you do this and you do the push-up of go and tell me what this means, go and find an emotion, at first you fake it because the hypothalamus is asleep. So this would be the equivalent of somebody in a coma, their muscles are atrophied, and to get them to walk, they pick them up, they put them on I was doing this in February, with chair, with crutches, and the crutch walks for me, but I still put my foot on the floor so that we're still getting some pressure, some movement, something that keeps the body going to wake it back up, because the quad post ACL surgery like I had, it falls asleep and it just atrophies in no time. It's the muscle that atrophies fastest in the body and takes the longest to regrow. Yay! So we've got to get it moving. How do we get it moving? Falsely. This is riding the motorcycle. This is riding the bicycle with the stabilizers. These are your stabilizers. I can't just get you to do this on its own. It's too brutal. Go and tell me the traumatic memory and how you felt about it. I mean, some people do therapy like that, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. Stop. What did you eat for lunch today? How'd you feel about that? Little push-ups, tiny assisted push-ups first. Don't throw your client into the deep end. And as they do this, they build strength, and this becomes real. Either on the day, like immediately. Your first one, you fake it. Second one, you're like, actually, I think I did feel shock. And then the third one, you're like, what would a person feel who's not me? Well, actually, I did feel like a hot prickling sensation in my skin. And I started to sweat. I think that's embarrassment. I think I was embarrassed. Yeah, I was embarrassed. And what was behind the embarrassment? Oh, no, I don't know. When you do this, and I say to you, what was behind the embarrassment? And you're going, That's your single point of awareness, internal, drifting off and going to speak to the Monty Python character who guards the records, who doesn't want to talk to you. That's you. What did I actually feel? Oh, you're back again. But he's a bit more exercised now. He's used to it now, and he can actually go and access memories, and he can actually go and access emotions. It's weak at first. It takes time to strengthen. 30 days later, I don't think you need it. But you must do it for 30 days. And if another traumatic event comes, you must be using your emotional literacy straight away, because now you're not a white belt. You're not a white belt. Something traumatic happens. You go into a bit of shock. You're like, oh, you're mortified. You go into mortification straight away. Don't play Tetris. You have something way better than Tetris. So as your body's like, oh, let's just turn off the, did I say pituitary? It's hypothalamus. Have I always been saying hypothalamus? If I said pituitary, that's wrong. It's the hypothalamus. It's the seahorse shaped thing. I think I always said hypothalamus. Did I? I don't want to have to reshoot this. I'll just dub it. I'll just be like pituitary, hypothalamus. Hypothalamus. Don't let it switch off. Don't let him go to sleep. Keep that awake. The hand mnemonic and the emotional literacy thing is way deeper. Why have I not said this before? Because I want people to do it. I don't want them thinking about it. Because some people, especially intellectual types, like the ones who wanted this video, you'll watch this and your brain will go, wow, fascinating. I'll go and read that piece of scientific research. Nom, nom, nom. I'm full. I'll go and do something else now. Please don't do that. Please do it. You won't receive any benefits by looking at it and thinking about it. You must do it. This is a physical problem, ladies and gents. I think your I just hypnotized myself. Your hypothalamus, not your pituitary gland. It's because when your HPA axis is dysregulated, it's the hypothalamus, pituitary, and adrenal gland. It's the way, said brutally, it could be like how you perceive threats and how you respond to it at a hormonal level. It's a physical problem. But I don't say that either, because then people go, oh, okay, so I need meds. I need antidepressants. I'm like, no, your endogenous medical system, the medical system you have inside of you is just fine. But it's a physical problem, which is why you're looking at it going, intuitively, your brain is scrambled. The HPA axis, the way in which your cognition is interacting with your brain is cognating and feeling, so your cognating and emoting is interacting with your hormonal system. It is physically out of whack. So the emotional flashbacks, the depression, the anxiety, they are physical, but it is not a virus called depression that's landed in your body that needs a medicine to get rid of. None of this requires, in my humble opinion, none of this requires medicine, but I'm not a doctor. You should always defer to a proper professional, not some chap on YouTube. So that's what I think this really is. I'm exhausted now. I'm going to have to do an emotional literacy exercise about the trauma of doing this video. It's supposed to be 45 minutes. It was an hour and 17. Very good. Well done, everybody, especially those of you stuck right the way through. Now you know the secret behind this. It's not a simple exercise. It's a very, very deep exercise, and these are my expectations and hopes. And up until now, they have proven to be fruitful. People who do it for 30 days or more are reporting like the emotional flashbacks go, and they feel better than they've ever felt before. So that could be you too. It's free, except it takes your time. So please do commit to it. Give it a go. I wish you the very best in your healing journey. Please do set your intention to heal as clearly as you can and as frequently as you can. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your attention, which you have given me a lot of today, and I do look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Cheers.